public-private partnership that we don't have experience in Aruba. So we have 3 major projects that we want to do by PPP. So that's the 4-lane to San Nicolas. If you know, Aruba is from the airport all the way to the other side of the island is San Nicolas, and going this way is Oranjestad. So we want to do a PPP project, a 4-lane all the way to San Nicolas, a ring road around Oranjestad, that's the other one, and the 3rd one is the hospital. But we don't have experience with PPP. So we call our colleagues in The Hague, and at that time was Prime Minister Balkenende in power. So we get all the assistance that we could get, and so we are very thankful and grateful for that support. And the infrastructure minister sent us some, Camille Eurlings was at that time the Minister of Infrastructure. So we signed an agreement, a cooperation agreement between Netherlands and Aruba to help us create the PPP's project. It's not an easy task, because PPP projects is not the regular bidding system. In Aruba, for bidding, you just make the plans, you have the money, you go out and you say, okay, I have a bidding for this project, and everybody who is in the construction world will submit their price, and the one with the lowest price will get the project. But the PPP is another concept. It's more a dialogue. People will give you, at the end, a price, but it's not about the price. It's about the project himself. They have to design it. They have to maintain it. They have to see that the quality of the project is at the standard that Aruba wants, and they have to maintain it for at least 20 years. So we have people from the Netherlands come to Aruba, from the United States come to Aruba, and make a PPP unit that is going to be one of the most important things that Aruba will export in the region. Because PPP is a know-how how to do it. What are the steps you have to take to realize the projects that you want to do by PPP? So for us and for the people in the audience that is doing infrastructure projects, Aruba will have his first PPP unit that is going to be here, and we're going to have the status of the United Nations, is everything went well, and we're going to give a consultant to the region. So it is another experience that Latin American have, and it is another experience that Europe have, because a PPP projects in the Netherlands is at least 5 to 10 years. In Aruba, we have downsized it, we have cut the red tape, and we do a PPP project in 2 years. So it is important for Latin America, it is important for Europe, and it is important for Aruba that we can share this knowledge in PPP so we can export. One of the focus points of the study that Mr. Balkenende did with Ernst & Young was infrastructure. So Aruba is getting the experience so we can export our PPP knowledge in the region for Latin America and for the Caribbean to realize projects like the hospital, like the ring road, like the green corridor, because we have had that experience for the last 2 and 3 years. So we know where you need to focus to realize a PPP project. So these are a few of the projects that Aruba is doing right now. And it is for us important that you are here today, not only to hear about infrastructure of Aruba, but to be part of this. We want you to be part in the coming next projects, PPPs, or other infrastructure project that we're going to do for the coming years. The one who is doing the business in infrastructure, you're welcome to Aruba. But we want also that you're going back to your country, Chile, Venezuela, Colombia, Santo Domingo, Bonaire, Curacao, also the Netherlands, and tell the people in your country that Aruba is making changes in infrastructure, is getting experience in infrastructure, and we can share it with you. So it will be a win-win situation for everybody, for Aruba, for Europe, and for Latin America. The main thing, and to finish, the main thing that we need to focus on is we need to have a vision. Aruba have a vision. We need to have a team. We have a team. We have a leader of the team, our Prime Minister, who is pushing every day for the projects of infrastructures, who has the vision, and we need to have the people of Aruba behind you to realize this project. Long-term commitment is the only way that you can realize this project. So Aruba, I'm very proud to be part of this government. I'm very proud that the people of Aruba is carrying this project, because at the end, it's for them that we are doing it, for a better life, for a better quality of living in Aruba, but also for our visitors to visit us, to see what Aruba is doing. Just make the tour around the island, and you will see we are busy in the neighborhoods, we are busy in the cities, we are busy in the schools, we are busy in the hospital, we are busy all over the place, because we want a better living for our people, and we want that our visitors come to Aruba and say, Aruba is walking into the good direction. So to finish, I will thank you for being here. I will look forward to work with you and see if we can do something together, because this is the place that we can make that happen. Europe's meet America, and Aruba is in the middle to participate and make the best of it for each part of the continent, America and Europe. So thank you very much, and hoping to see you, that we can work together on infrastructure in Aruba or other place in the region. Thank you very much, and have a nice evening.
Before Minister Seefinger takes his seat, I absolutely must ask you to please stand and give this man a round of applause for all of what has been accomplished on this small island nation called Aruba. This is action in the works. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
As you can tell, we are a proud people, and we definitely appreciate opportunities to give credit where credit is due for a job well done. So in our native language of Papiamento, we say bon trabalho. So can you all say that? Bon trabalho? Yes? And so when you greet Minister Seefinger during the break, please be sure and give him a thumbs up and tell him bon trabalho. Yes, there is more to come. There is more to come. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Our next speaker for this afternoon is a phenomenal young man. And I really don't know what other words to use to describe him except to say that he is simply a genius. And we had the opportunity to hear him speak yesterday, Mr. Dan Rozengaard, and he just totally blew us away with all of the fantastic and creative ideas of harnessing energy. So I understand this afternoon that he's got some more of that creative and enlightening ideas to share with us. And we would like, for those of you who may not have heard me speak about him yesterday, but Mr. Rozengaard wants to upgrade reality with his interactive landscapes. And they're interactive and they're colorful and fun. And these landscapes respond to sound and movement. And he's got projects that range from fashion to architecture. And he's also created very smart and social designs that have a futuristic relationship with people. And Dan Rosegard, where are you? Where are you? Here he is. You are simply fantastic, and I'm looking forward to what you have to share with us this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dan Rosegard.
Thanks. Good to go. You're really building up a pressure like this. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Okay. So, yes, screen please. Hey, good afternoon. This is part 2. So for you who weren't there yesterday, we addressed shortly, can I have some sound, some interactive landscapes we've been working on, like June, which you see here, hundreds of fibers reacting to the sounds and the motion of the people walking by. We addressed shortly dresses, which can change in transparency when you become more intimate with them. I think that this one caught your imagination the most. I don't know. So changing from black to transparent according to the heartbeat of the model. We addressed the Smart Highway project, paints which charge at daytime, give light at night. So thinking about new interactive and sustainable landscapes towards more sci-fi, but at the same time very realistic. The notion of windmills, making them more as an iconic element, connecting the tipping points of the windmills, which go 320 kilometers per hour, with lines of light, and therefore creating this sort of beautiful, yet very natural, matrix-like shapes. According to the amount of wind, more lines occur. Anyway, so, okay, that was yesterday. But today I thought it would be interesting to sort of zoom in a bit more and to really talk about this notion of upgrading reality, and thinking about how can we make environments, public spaces, which are not just decorative or nice, but engage people in a sort of emotional and economical way. And I think that's sort of the quality of a place like Aruba, which is sort of small and at the same time very local, to make places which are very beautiful, very innovative, and very imaginative, and to make a statement which goes beyond the island in itself. And today I want to show you 3 projects we recently realized, which are about that, reconnecting people with their environment. Why are we looking at these bloody iPhone screens the whole day? Like since when are we so caught up with technology? And what happens when technology becomes merged in our environment? And similar to Aruba, we believe in networks, working together with architects, designers, WizKids. As you see here, we have a studio in the Netherlands and in Shanghai. And I heard yesterday that we're starting one in Aruba as well. So news travels fast. And so we spent a lot of time on developing technology. It's sort of, the painter has paint. We have our little microchip, which makes sure that the things are alive, that they somehow interact with the people and connect them. So we spend a lot of time on that, but in the end, it's about creating an interaction with it, or these sort of smart materials, which based on the heat of your breath, fold open. This is called Lotus. This is basically what I'm doing the whole day. This is my job. I love my job. Yeah. So thinking about smarter materials, making new ones, and you're right, we steal from the right people, which is also very important as an artist. Yeah. Nobody actually knows anymore what's in the box, and but it's there. Yeah. So 3 locations which we update, and I'm going to end with the project that we're working on now for you guys, for Aruba. So that's an exciting one. This is a church in Lille, in France, where the city of Lille contacted us because they have a problem. They are, the city is filled with these kind of monuments where they spend a lot of time, money, and energy on to restore them, to make them look beautiful. This is beginning 1700, the Santa Marie Madeleine, Renaissance church. But the problem with these kind of buildings within a city is sort of the thing you might have, which has a beautiful photo, a lady, a beautiful photo model on a party has, that she is so beautiful that people are a bit scared to talk to her. So they're sort of, they don't want to do anything with her, but at the same time everybody's looking. And I think you know what I mean. And so these buildings are in a similar state of being. Everybody looks at them, but nobody really uses them. So they're sort of disconnected, isolated from the world around us. And that's exactly the question the city asked us, the mayor. Can you reconnect these buildings with the people who live there? And so we made this one. This is inside Lotus Dome, made of the foil, the heat foil I just showed you. Based on the heat of your hand and the light, it opens, and placed in the dark church, it enlightens the building around it. Follows you, scans the building, closes when you go away, sort of revealing the church. The people are like, oh, these angels. Yeah, hello, they've been there for 300 years, but they, you know, people don't look anymore. So you hide and then you show. So what you do actually in a way is making something tech, innovative, but it's not about that. It's about reconnecting realities. And what you see is what we worked a lot on. You see the stainless windows on the top and on left top side. We actually, you know, make sure that the light and the shadows of Lotus create a sort of interactive pattern over this building, merging this old and the new world together. And by interacting, you're actually making the architecture alive again, creating these sort of beautiful, techno-flowery, poetry-like interactions. And at the same time, yeah, creating this skin of light and shadow. And for us, that was very important to sort of think about how can we make things which reconnect people, their environment, but also make historical things more contemporary again. And right now, we're actually taking a similar principle. This is also an interesting one for building facades, where we actually take the element that when something gets warm or cold, it shrinks and expands. That's how the foil works. And actually applying it to a larger scale building for a big fashion brand we're working on now, where actually the buildings start to behave like a flower. When the sun hits it, it folds open so you can look inside, and at night it closes again, also regarding with sun control and air conditioning. And I like that a lot, that suddenly, you know, the architecture starts to act like a flower in a way. And so this fascination with tech and light has always been a part of us. This is a thing where we worked on evolution of light, where we were contacted by the city of Eindhoven, which has a huge name for in lighting industry. Philips had its factories there. The lighting bulb was created there for many, many years. And they are very keen in promoting Dutch design and etc. Abroad. And there's a big area being renovated, and the mayor contacted us like, we want next step of lighting. Which in itself was an intriguing task somehow. So when you look at light, it's actually quite interesting. It started in the beginning very personal. It was a sort of a candle which you always had nearby yourself in the early Middle Ages. And then suddenly it became industrialized. Invention of the light bulb and the energy neutral lamp. But at the same time it became industrialized. You know, it was this pillar somewhere high above, disconnected from human interaction, until the invention of LED in 1962, when things became very light and energy neutral and cheap and things like that. And so they ask us, can you make something which is sort of, yeah, what's next, you know? And so we started to imagine, while we're looking at all this social media via Twitter and Facebook and things like that, how does Facebook Square look like? You know, can we make places again where people go to leave messages and things like that? Light not just as a function, but as a mediator. And so we proposed this, a radical statement of crystals. And the crystal that you see here is actually quite something interesting. It's a salt, which when we dipped it in a sort of chemical substance, it grows in this perfect geometrical shape. This is nature doing its work. You have these gigantic salt caves in Mexico, which are perfect in geometry, but not man-made. You know, nature has its own DNA protocol somehow, like snowflakes in a way. And what we did is put 2 LEDs in it, and create a little, it's difficult to explain, but so bear with me. But it's similar to, we created sort of power mat, which produces a small magnetic field, and therefore charges the crystal which lays on top of it. So there's no battery in the crystal, which you see here. It literally gets its power from the floor. Similar, it's different but the same, similar to your toothbrush, yeah? Your wireless toothbrush, which you plug in, it charges, so you don't need to cable it or things like that. And the nice thing about it is that you have these zillions of crystals which light up when you walk by, but at the same time, yes, they are laying on the ground. Yeah? So people can sort of pick them up and cherish them, but people can also, you know, steal them and take them away. So we had to convince the client that they would spend a lot of money on a lighting project which could completely be stolen. So we sort of sort of made, how do you say, a judgment call somehow. What's their social agenda? And what you see here is actually a first prototype exhibit where we sort of questions ourselves, what are people going to do with something like this? This is a short movie when it was presented in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. So when you interact with them, they get more power. And people started to make these sort of symbols or these letters with it. When you share them, they brighten. Sort of a glowing when nobody's there. And so that's sort of fascinating, that suddenly what happened is that people started to leave little messages behind, like symbols or words or things like that, which I think was incredibly fascinating, that you stop looking at computer screens, but that you actually use your environment to communicate with each other. It was described as sort of being a Lego from Mars, because people, you know, intuitively understood it, but at the same time had no idea what it was, which we thought was really good, actually. Making, you know, these stacks of it. And of course they were stolen. This was part of the project. They only work when they are placed in that area. They need the mat to be powered. And what was interesting is that when you have 5% blue ones and 95% white ones, the blue ones are stolen. But one night we reversed it, and then the white ones were stolen. So that was sort of an interesting challenge somehow. To see who shares them and who steals them. I think that was a very good, intelligent thing. And at the end, we're realizing this now, 100, 150 square meters, where people can, you know, use it in different ways to make a path. So it's about lighting, public lighting, and at the same time, yeah, this sort of social messaging. And we make sure that we have enough crystals to provide the ones which are taken away. Yeah. But a radical statement of making crystals available. And also what we did is that makes it a sort of very radical thing, is that we team up the coming 5 years, each year, with a company to make new crystals. So we open source, it's open source technology, the crystal itself. And so for example, a Dutch Design Week or a chip manufacturer or a health insurance, etc., likes to make a lot of them to send it to their clients or their friends or sponsors or things like that. And then they can go to the area in Eindhoven. The moment they put it on the ground, it lights up. So we actually already have partners which will produce extra every 5 years, every year new ones. And they can completely decide what kind of shape or color it is. So you will get this ecology of light through the time. So that's going to be fascinating. Final project. So going to this public space and talking about light and interaction, this is a location in Almere, which is a very troubled area. There's a lot of graffiti, you know, a lot of people who hang out and make a lot of noise and things like that. And the city of Almere and the property developer contacted us to make actually a square would connect people again. So instead of shouting at each other, they would sort of share stories somehow. And we came up with a proposal, the marbles, in which we say, you know, as a child you were playing with marbles, long, long time ago. Now they're sitting inside looking at screens, so we want to make the marbles of the future somehow. These are first prototypes we're developing. When nobody's there, they're sort of bluish, but by touching, they become alive. They're more like animals in a way, than little babies. And the more you touch them, the more they become alive. They also communicate with each other. So if you touch them very fast, all of them, they become a little bit more crazy. So they really think like a network in a way. And so what happened is the city was very afraid of that people would damage them, because there are a lot of like kids who drink a lot and then steal a scooter and things like that. I mean, yeah, it happens. So it should be Hufter-proof. That's how they call it. I'm not going to translate this in English. You figure it out. So we made a deal with maintenance contract, like if it would be damaged, we would repair it. We made a deal for it to support it 10, 15 years, signed a contract with a cleaning company in terms of graffiti, etc., etc. But in a weird way, the opposite happened after a while. As you can see here, suddenly the so-called Hufter-jongeren were not the vandalistic little brats they expected they would be, but they became, in a weird way, very proud of it. You see one of them sitting here on it. It's sort of it's their hangout place. They go there to be cool. And for example, they were very afraid of graffiti and tags and things like that. And we made it very strong and resistant. But in the end, the whole cleaning project wasn't even necessary anymore because they touch it so much that it gets cleaned by itself, which I thought was incredibly interesting somehow. So that's important, to make environments which people feel proud of again. And this, similar to like this, is actually something we're going to work on here in Aruba as well. So we're very proud somehow to team up with the government and the Prime Minister here to make, in the area of Linear Park, within this year, a similar interactive landscape. So you are more than welcome to come by and have your own interactive experience, so to speak. So we're working on that now. I'm hoping to be here in a couple of months, and that you can create your own little interactions of poetry. To conclude, so I've been talking about reconnecting people with landscapes, merging innovation with imagination. But what I realized yesterday while we were talking, and the notion of the Prime Minister, Aruba as a hub and things like that, that indeed it's not about technology, it's not just even about money, it's about thinking like a network and working together. And yesterday I remembered this story, which I experienced in India a couple of years ago while I was traveling there. And I heard a story about a tiger who lives in a zoo. And the tiger, as you may know, are considered almost holy in India. So they're being taken care of. They are precious animals. And the tiger in the zoo had 5 little puppies, which died when they were born. And the tiger got very depressed, didn't want to eat anymore. And the caretakers of the zoo were afraid that they would die. And they were like, shit, what are we going to do? We love it, but something is going wrong. And so instead of complaining or sort of, like saying ja maar all the time, they came up with an idea. And they thought as a network. And so what they realized is that piggies are more or less the same size and behave in a similar way. And so what they did is took the skin of the 5 dead little tigers, got 5 little piggies, wrapped the skin around them, put them in the cage and waited. And as you can see here, a miracle happened. The tiger accepted them as their newly born, and they live together happily right now. I think this is what we should be doing, you know, working together. It's not about, you know, being right. Being right is boring. It's about teaming up with people outside of your comfort zone. I will leave in the middle who is the tiger, who is the caretaker, and who is the piggy in this whole story. I'm sure we'll figure it out ourselves. But it just shows that if we are willing to do exactly that, magic and new worlds will open up very soon. All right, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions? Otherwise, it's just me telling. Are there any questions? Or is there one question now? I'm overruling you. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, otherwise it's just me talking. I don't like that. No? You're silent?
They all just want to know how they're going to afford to hire you.
No, I think like they're over.
I can be bribed with strawberry cheesecake ice creams. Yeah. So that's easy. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Dan, I think that we are mostly kind of overwhelmed right now. It's gonna get down, and today, coming to the kind of housekeeping notes, we're going to shorten the coffee break. Not otherwise, we're going to just continue with Galina, and then we're going to have a nice panel discussion, and by then I'm sure we're going to have some interesting questions for you. All right.
I'm sorry, everyone. The Prime Minister has to attend a very important meeting, and so he's asked that you excuse him. So we hope to have him back with us later this afternoon. Thank you.
All right. So, like you know, planning needs quality, and quality needs planning. Our next speaker, Galina Tacheva, is an expert in sustainable urbanism, urban redevelopment, sprawl repair, form-based codes, and resort towns. As a partner at DPZ Company, Architects and Town Planners, Tacheva directs the design and implementation of projects in the US and around the world. Tacheva is the author of the Sprawl Repair Manual. This is my Bible right now. An award-winning publication by Island Press, which focuses on the retrofit of auto-centric suburban places into complete, vibrant communities. Tacheva is one of the leaders of the Congress for the New Urbanism Sprawl Retrofit Initiative. She is the primary author of the Smart Code Sprawl Repair module. She has lectured at the University of Miami, Harvard Executive Program, as well as in universities in South America and Europe. Without further ado, Ms. Galina Tacheva.
Good afternoon. Right after this fantastic presentation from Dan, I really feel old and old-fashioned and just like going back to some very mundane and absolutely not so poetic things. However, I share probably with him some enthusiasm about the built environment and about all the things which surround us. So whenever there is a challenge in front of me or I go to a beautiful place, I feel like a kid in a toy store. So I felt some kind of connection with Dan, but this is it. It's nice to actually think about this next generation, the young people, and with all these incredible ideas which they have about art and technology and everything else, and to think about also the environments which will be attractive to them and the environments in which they will be actually living and choosing to live. But let me first thank the Aruban community and Your Excellencies, the ministers. I guess they probably left, but everybody else, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends, I'm honored to be here and very happy on your happy island. This is my second time here, and actually I have to admit that what I'm going to be showing today are some ideas, some thoughts about Aruba and about how Aruba looks at its future. But I have to admit that I'm not an expert on Aruba. You know, you are the experts, the people who have been living here, who have been coming here more often. If you are a tourist or a visitor or a business person. We are a kind of, our company has been around for a few years. We have been doing urban planning and development for more than 30 years. And we come as outsiders and try to help communities actually with some lessons from other places, you know, places where things have worked out well or not so well, so we can share with the Aruban community some of these ideas. Of course, all these efforts of urban planners, architects, you know, design people are towards one goal: to make places which are resilient, which stay for the ages, you know, for a long time. They're not disposable, basically. They're not only, we strive for these places not to be only beautiful, but also to be resilient in the long run and also prosperous. And Aruba is a place, and we have heard these days incredible praises from all sides, and these are just the facts. Aruba has all these assets to make exactly such a beautiful, resilient, and prosperous place. When we talk about urban planning and land use in general and the profession of urban planners, is that there are several things which are central, and I believe that here the community of Aruba and the design community, the planners, are already striving towards that. They're looking at not only preservation and enhancement of the natural resources, and Aruba is very well known about them, you know, the fantastic beaches and the open space and the national park. But it's also about economic stimulus, new jobs, et cetera, But all of these things are a kind of central to the big theme. And the big theme is to improve the quality of life of the people who live here to begin with. And when their lives are great and their living is fantastic, the tourism and the visitors actually will be sharing, you know, and it has been happening for many years. So that when you put the quality of life very central to all these efforts, all other things actually come into place very naturally. And we have been working actually with the Carbon War Room in a kind of collaboration, and they have presented this morning and in previous days that they have been working on really state-of-the-art strategies on energy reduction and carbon dioxide reduction, and they're looking at ways of basically making Aruba carbon neutral in a few years, which is very ambitious, which is an incredibly ambitious goal. And we're also helping on the other side to look at the component which is building cities and building places, building the physical places, the towns and villages of Aruba, or rebuilding them actually, and how sustainability and greenness is related to the built environment, you know, to the places where we live. And our thinking for many, many years has been that if we reduce driving, actually, if we get rid of kind of the old ways of thinking about development, which has been the sprawling way of doing things, you know, coming from more developed countries, you know, to the north, not naming names, but in the United States we have been really successful in sprawling big time. Actually, coming back to a kind of more traditional ways of living, where everything is close together, where people can walk to their daily needs. Basically, all the sustainability big goals can be reached much more easily. We cannot talk about big agendas on sustainability, on green economy, et cetera, or even about Aruba being a green gateway, if we don't actually look at how people live and how people use their, you know, how they have their daily lives including the visitors and the tourists. And there were some statistics out there that basically Arubans drive every year about 10,000 miles, which is an amazing statistics. You know, these are statistics which are comparable to Miami and to Atlanta. This is not a statistics which has to be connected to the small island of Aruba, where you can have incredible cities and towns and places where people enjoy being in this wonderful weather instead of just driving everywhere. But this is what we have adopted as a way of development in the past several decades. I mean, it's almost, 5 decades already. So now we have a chance, actually Aruba has a chance right at this moment to choose between very clear directions. That's why we're talking about the national vision. Are we going to continue the old ways, or are we going to basically choose another way, which is let's build upon, we call it the value of the walkable urbanism, making places where things are mixed, things are in close vicinity, and they're really sustainable places where you can reduce, use of energy and fossil fuels, everything, just with the simple thing, driving less, driving less. And I always think about, Aruba as a place which is, yes, there are all these great opportunities, but there are also, you have to be very competitive. You have to be competitive today in the 21st century, exactly with the built environment. Other places in the Caribbean, in South America, in North America, have realized that actually our places where we live are extremely important, how basically function. And if you rely only on driving for everything, actually you're not going to be at the cutting edge of the 21st century. This new generation, all these cool young people, actually they tend to prefer more urban, more walkable, cool places where they can live above a store, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like an incredible shift in the market today. A shift of the younger generation, a shift also the older generation. There are like 75 million baby boomers in the United States who are starting to retire. And they want also to live in these more urban environments, these more connected, mixed-use places. So basically, if we achieve this driving less big goal, which should not be such a difficult thing to achieve, there will be many positive things which will attain. Not only economically, because by making places livable and attractive, you will have different ways of doing tourism, and you will have different type of investment in real estate, but it's also socially, thinking about the younger kids who don't have driving licenses. They can walk everywhere. The older folks who are older cannot drive. And also the people who can afford having cars, actually, they are included in this group. So quality of life actually is very much related to to the reduction of driving. I mean, these several days we heard so much about the culture and the history and about the assets of the island, and I'm not going to dwell too much on it. And it's wonderful to see that already in the country and in the city, you're already doing a lot of things in this respect, preserving, and you will be here later, things on the preservation of monuments and what you're doing about creating public spaces within the city. The natural assets are totally fantastic. However, Aruba is not very large and your resources are not unlimited. So that's why it's superbly important that you have at this crossroads of choosing which way to go, actually to choose the more compact, the more complete communities. Here I was showing, the Kunuku house, which is basically, you can see it here, I don't know how to show right here. Oh, I have a bigger, actually. The Kunuku house, which is a traditional local architectural tradition building type. And it's amazing how in this simple, very small structure you can learn a lot of lessons about the size of building footprint, about natural ventilation, about gathering of water, about creating courtyards, about living outside and inside. It's a kind of lessons which we somehow have forgotten. So I'm a kind of challenging the community, the design community here, that they look at historical examples, precedents, and build upon them in their next endeavors. Yes, we saw so many images today from how Orange Studies is basically in a boom, in a renaissance. There is a lot more to be done, and we know that things are happening. These are pictures from a while back, actually, from several months ago, when these were the tracks of the streetcar, and today we saw that it's already operating. Actually, this square is in disarray because it's under construction for the next big renovation. And I touched upon, of course, some of these challenges already: the autocentric development and the limited land use, climate change. I mean, we all know that that we will be all together within it, and places which actually develop in a more compact, mixed-use, diverse way will be ahead in this situation when we have to not only mitigate, try to stop climate change, but if it's coming, and it seems like it is, that we have to adapt our lifestyles and our ways of doing things, not to be so dependent on fossil fuels, et cetera, et cetera. But one difficult thing is to change behavior. I hear all the time, and it's not only here in Aruba, but other places, people like their cars, they're never gonna not stop driving. It's like, yeah, because it's too hot, but it's too cold up north. It's so people are, they're just not gonna not drive. And our goal is not stop people from driving, it's just to create more choices for them. If you do not want to drive, then you will have the choice. But you don't build your cities and places and everything else with the only choice of driving. And I believe that these 10,000 miles which you have per household here in Aruba come from that there are not that many choices. So the proposition on the table is to create exactly that, to create different choices. You will still have the choice of driving. You have enough shopping centers and enough autocentric development in Aruba, so you can actually keep that, but then maybe create a wider range. And also, how are we going to pay for all of that? Whether it's good or whatever, benevolent urbanism or whatever kind of urbanism, we have to think about different times coming. And not only, it's around the world, and we saw in these presentations, yes, South America is up and coming, and yes, probably the crisis up north is going away. Well, Europe is a little questionable. But everybody knows that we have to think in a different way. We have to think about a kind of a leaner economy, which means that we cannot spread and we cannot sprawl as we have done till very recently. One of the big probably obstacles which are in front of everybody who has actually been in a kind of the development patterns of the last decades have been the regulatory systems or the codes which are in place. Everywhere around the world we go and do some work, and we have been a kind of, for the last decades, somewhat of guerrillas. We go and we have to change the codes and the regulations to be able to build walkable places. They are the ones which actually we need to look at, policies and codes, and which is the operating system of real estate investment and building actually places. And one last thing is that there are no basically silver bullets. You cannot with one grand project go and do everything. It's slightly ironic that this conference is called Urban Renewal, because in America, in the United States, in the 60s, actually urban renewal received a quite kind of infamous name. It was the time when whole neighborhoods were basically cleared out to make way for supposedly more modern, big towers where social housing was placed. Well, these places didn't work because they were lacking a kind of the neighborhood structure. They were lacking the community, this mixed use and diverse element which I was talking about. But anyway, here it means something else. Here it means urban renaissance, which is very different. And yes, I'm not going to go again. Environment, economy, community, this is like the holy trinity, if you wish. But when we look at a place, whether it's a whole country, and actually with Aruba it's very convenient because you can have a lesson in urban planning and in everything with the country. You have cities and towns and villages, and you have some suburban stuff and sprawl and tourist areas. So you have basically everything on this island. It's good to look at the regional scale, you know, looking at greenways and open space as systems, including human habitats. You know, like bits and pieces of green actually don't work. They don't work for the creatures, you know, for species, for animals. They don't work environmentally, you know, as watersheds. So it's actually important to look at all of these things as connected elements. And you have started already here to create, you know, the basis for spatial planning. You know, you have an ROP Aruba, and there is a wide consensus that yes, you have to have natural preserves, and then green areas, and like fingers of green, and a kind of a lower intensity urbanism, and then your cities, San Nicolas and Oranjestad. And then the next level is actually to go and to look at the communities, at the community scale. And you have different, as you know, like looking closer on Google, and Google is a kind of really magic. You see that yes, you have a very tight and wonderful network of streets in Oranjestad where you can improve upon, and which you're actually doing it today. And you have a kind of the more suburban places where some of them are actually more complete communities with mixed use, but some of them are not. And then you have some of this type of rural development, and of course the natural edge. But when you zoom into a kind of zoom out a little bit, and you get to this level of scale, you see that basically your open space doesn't make the connected networks I was talking about. There was development here for a few years or decades where development happened in small bits and pieces, a kind of through negotiation, I imagine, because I cannot imagine otherwise how it happened. In some cases, you know, there was preservation of open space, but it was not created a kind of as a system. So to achieve the map, the very ideal map which I showed before, it will be quite a challenge. And actually here with these very simple cartoons, you know, I show the two types of development. One is connected and complete and diverse with different uses, and then the other one is basically a dendritic system. Here, these are the offices, this is the shopping mall, the houses are separate, and then this is the school, and everything is connected to a collector street. What the other example shows that we have exactly the same elements. You know, basically sprawl and traditional towns have exactly the same elements. They're just arranged in a different way. Here you can see that everything is connected. There is a network. If a kid lives right there, he can walk to school internally within the network. If in this school, the kid lives right here on this cul-de-sac, he has to be driven all the way to the collector and then go to the school. So basically you have a system which is very much well, what I wanted to say is that a lot of the traffic actually is overburdened, is put along this collector. So with very simple connectivity principles, you can achieve the traditional ways as we used to make our cities. The neighborhood actually is the kind of the fundamental building block of town planning. We talk about the kind of the physicality of this place. It's usually from center to edge is about 5 minutes. And this is a kind of course, it's a simplification in a diagrammatic way. But if you put several of these neighborhoods together, then you begin to have main streets, and you have neighborhoods which are connected, interconnected within themselves, where, you know, most of the daily needs are actually met within the neighborhood. So this is a kind of the academic way. When you see it on the ground, you know, this is the model of a kind of the typical American sprawl, which we see today all over the world. You know, we see it in South America, we see it even here to smaller extent. You know, this is a kind of the American pattern, which is really gigantic, with the giant malls, with the big highways, with the residential subdivisions. And here, this is a traditional town. This happens to be Savannah, but you see that it's very simple. It's just squares and grids. One is sprawl, the other one is a complete community, which is compact, connected, and complex to an extent because you have a mix of building types, while the other one is fragmented and car dependent. So whatever you do, whether you're recovering, you know, a neighborhood, whether you're retrofitting a place or we're doing a new construction, new development, you have to be thinking about the neighborhood structure and about these physical building blocks which actually form the community. And this is a little bit more academic, a transect, which is basically a tool which is used by the biologists. You know, the biologists, ecologists, they cut these sections through the natural environment, and it goes from the ocean to the dune, you know, to the hills, to the mountain, and they basically look at the diversity of different species, flora and fauna. And we thought that we can extend this naturalistic section through human habitat and create different environments actually for humans. Some humans prefer to live in urban environment, you know, kind of on the upper floor above shops. Others prefer a little bit quieter environment, and others prefer to be very close to nature. So the idea is that we do not preclude things from happening, but we just allocate them differently along this transect. This is a transect in Hawaii, a transect through the Bahamas, and then you can see here we attempted to do the transect of Aruba, which is, you know, from Oranjestad through some of the neighborhoods all the way to the agricultural land, all the way to the natural and the beaches. So we have here a few thoughts on preliminary opportunities assessments. They include basically large maps with some ideas. You know, we looked at the island as a connected system of thoroughfares, and you can see here that some of them, and here it's probably a little bit difficult to see. You have some networks which are connected, but some are not. In the dark color are the places where the connectivities are still not are not yet present. We learned that basically the largest traffic happens kind of in the east-west direction. You know, people commuting to the city and working probably in the higher tourist areas. So basically creating connectivity is a very important element. Urban redevelopment opportunities, and you're doing it already, and they're very obvious where this can happen in the cities. Some examples from our experience. This is a place in Florida where, you know, one-story small shops were redeveloped into something a little bit more urban with different strategies. Basically, Main Street central management, it's very important that you basically work with your merchants together to create a kind of a streetscape which is with similar rules, so everything is predictable for these new businesses. Coordinated storefront design, streetscape, lighting, signage, and of course parking strategy. Actually, parking is probably one of the most important things, how you handle parking, that it's not, that it's not actually obvious. You know, you don't leave parking lots and open parking garages, but you hide them in the back of buildings. And these are actually other places which actually have worked with these codes, as I show them here. They are following some codes which we call form-based codes, and these are basically places which are not so much dealing with what types of uses go into the buildings, but with how the buildings shape the public space. And you're starting today in Oranjestad actually to pay attention to these things. Suburban retrofit zones, you have areas which are suburban, meaning that they are basically pods of segregated development. You know, they're just one function. And how you make them complete, usually they're like this. How can we make them in this way? And it's not impossible, it has been done. This is a shopping center, an old shopping center from the late 60s, which today has been transformed into a small town center. And this is, you know, the Spro Repair, an excerpt from the Spro Repair manual. Not that you have many examples like this here in Aruba, but you do have a few of these kind of suburban shopping centers, which actually can be infilled and can be rediscovered or transformed into mixed-use and walkable and walkable environments. And of course here for the people who love statistics and carbon dioxide numbers, et cetera, comparing sprawl composition to complete community, and you see basically per capita a drastic reduction of carbon dioxide. If you would like to see it not only as a quality of life issue, but also as quantity. You know, we're talking about quality of life, but some quantities and numbers also help. High-rise tourist zone, of course, here, you know, we would like to actually offer some different models. You know, yes, you have already the towers are here, but there are ways actually to do some retrofits of these places. You know, they're open parking lots, which actually can be infilled and create a more walkable mixed-use communities. The low-rise tourist zone redevelopment, we know that some of these places are quite idiosyncratic for Aruba, and they actually are well underway in retrofitting. But I wanted to show you a few examples from the United States exactly within this realm, you know, basically to offer a totally different model for tourism diversification. You know, it's not only the big towers, and this is actually on the Florida Panhandle where we have the big towers right here, you know, some condominiums shares here, a golf course with some other developments, and that's about it. The model which we actually started building about 3 decades ago, it's a totally different model. It's basically a place, a town where people live. It's mixed use and compact, and it's also a resort. So it's something which is, which today is a reality. It is it's a good alternative to only the big tower, a kind of all-inclusive, large resort model. You can have, you know, both coexisting, but that's a kind of gives an alternative, and you can see a public place, use of public place, and okay, yes, I think that I will be very soon done. So this is a kind of to leave it on the table for you as an idea of how these places with building types which are actually something in between, you know, high rises and low rises, but a kind of exploring the middle ground, you know, where you can have courtyard housing, which or in South America is known as patio housing. You know, you can explore here. You can see a little bit of South Dutch African influences. Here, these are the patios where you know, the public realm and how. And here, actually, I thought to show something cool for the younger generation, art, technology, and urbanism on these pristine white elevations. You know, art was projected. You know, a kind of the traditional houses, but the high-tech art was incorporated. This is a bridge which was actually done in 2 different ways, and then the pool house. And this is the street during the night when it's all fantastic and cinematographic. And then basically the more boring daily view when you know, you see only the white facades. And the white facades actually were done for sustainability reasons. You know, the white color actually reflects the sun, and there is also pervious materials and other techniques learned actually from traditional building methods. But I will leave it at that. You know, there are other ideas, but I guess it's such a big topic to talk about a kind of a national vision for the built environment in Aruba that I can talk for hours, and I knew that I will be over time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Mrs. Tachiva. We agree with you that there's so much to talk about on all of these subjects, and all of our speakers are very passionate about these subjects, and they want to be able to tell us as much as possible so that when you leave this conference, you will have all of the information that you need to be able to partner in this Europe Meets the Americas business conference. We are going to take a short break, but before we do that, I have a couple of things